Growing up, I, 24F, had a best friend, Alara, 24F. We weren't sisters by blood, but we were closer than most siblings. Our mothers were friends, and from kindergarten onwards we were inseparable. My earliest memories involve Alara's contagious, bright laughter. However, as we entered our teens, the dynamic began to subtly shift. Alara was, for all intents and purposes, the golden child in our duo, though not within her own family. Her parents were normal, supportive, but firm. But my parents, they were obsessed with her. To them, Alara was the perfect daughter I wasn't. She was effortlessly charming, stunningly beautiful, and had a way of making people feel important. I was quieter, more studious, and a bit clumsy. My achievements, like acing a tough math exam or winning a debate, were met with mild pride. Alara's, even small ones like winning a school raffle, were treated like front-page news. "Why can't you be a little more outgoing, like Alara?" My mother would sigh after Alara had dazzled guests with an impromptu song. "Look how easily she connects with people, Maya. That's a real skill." It was a constant, low-frequency hum of inadequacy. Alara, of course, was aware of this favoritism, and she used it. She developed an almost superhuman talent for subtle social sabotage. She knew exactly which buttons to push, and crucially, she knew that my parents would always default to believing her. I remember once, in high school, I was invited to join an exclusive art workshop. A huge deal for me, as I was passionate about graphic design. Alara was jealous because she wasn't invited. A few days before the workshop, I found the expensive set of professional inks I had saved up for. My ticket to the class, splashed all over my bedroom floor. I knew it was her. I had seen her snooping around my room earlier, and she was the only one in the house besides my parents. She looked at me with those wide, innocent brown eyes and feigned shock. "Maya, how could you accuse me of something so cruel? I would never. Are you just upset because I got the lead role in the school play?" My parents, hearing the commotion, rushed in. They took one look at the ruined carpet and the spilled ink, and then at Alara's distressed face. My mother immediately snapped at me. "How dare you blame Alara? She's your best friend. You must have done it yourself and are trying to get attention. Apologize to her right now." I was forced to apologize while Alara gave me a smug, almost imperceptible smirk when my parents weren't looking. I missed the workshop. That was the day the childhood affection I had for her curdled into a wary resentment. The years went on, a steady stream of microaggressions. She accidentally deleted my college application essay the night before the deadline, claiming she thought it was an old file. She forgot to tell me about a major group project deadline, causing me to fail the assignment. She deliberately flirted with the one boy I genuinely liked, only to dump him cruelly a week later just to prove she could. Each time, my parents dismissed my complaints. "Alara is just playful," my father would say. "You're too sensitive, Maya. Learn to take a joke." I learned that speaking up only meant more isolation, so I retreated. I poured myself into my digital art and coding, which eventually earned me a coveted scholarship to a tech university on the opposite coast. Moving across the country was the greatest relief of my life. My parents framed it as me being ambitious, while Alara just shrugged and said, "She'll be back when she realizes how hard real life is." We barely spoke after I left. I built a new life, focused on my career, and eventually co-founded a successful tech startup specializing in immersive 3D design. My life was finally genuinely good, fast forward successful, and financially independent. My parents, who had always viewed my career with a detached skepticism, suddenly started paying attention when articles about my company appeared in major business magazines. They invited me back home for a lavish 25th anniversary celebration. It wasn't really a request. It was a firm instruction. They even made a big show of saying, "And of course we're flying Alara in too, since she's practically family. It'll be just like old times." The thought of spending more than a weekend in the same city as Alara, let alone at the same event, filled me with dread. But my partner, Liam, urged me to go. "It's your parents' anniversary," he said. "Show them how well you're doing, Maya. You deserve to celebrate." I reluctantly agreed. They booked an extravagant getaway, not a family vacation, but a long weekend at a high-end, exclusive art and wellness retreat in the Bahamas, a place famous for its digital art installations and workshops. The entire trip was supposedly a grand reconciliation and celebration of their milestone. My parents paid for everything: the private villa, the flights, the workshops. They even went as far as arranging a private digital gallery showcase for me on the final day. A huge honor, complete as a belated acknowledgement of my success. I was genuinely touched and let my guard down, hoping that maybe, finally, my achievements had eclipsed Alara's shadow. The flights were booked. I cleared my calendar, handed over the reins of the company to Liam, and packed my bags. We arrived at the airport, my parents, Alara, and me. Everything was running smoothly until we reached the gate. My mother, looking stressed, handed me a printout. "Maya, honey, there's been a mix-up," she said, wringing her hands. "The retreat. They overbooked the villas for the 4 of us. They could only guarantee a reservation for 3 people in the exclusive wing." The reservation specialist called and, wearing an expression of practiced, angelic disappointment. I told them to just cancel mine, Auntie, but they said the cancellation window was closed, and all the non-exclusive villas are booked out. My mother looked at me with deep, apologetic eyes. "We tried, sweetheart, but they said there's absolutely no way to add a 4th person last minute in a separate room due to the nature of the retreat. We even called the airline, and your ticket is fine, but the accommodation for you is impossible. They can only honor the 3 remaining slots in the main villa." I felt a cold dread settle in my stomach. This felt suspiciously like the Art Inc. incident. The exclusive retreat, the booked-out villas, the sudden impossible logistics. My gaze locked onto Alara. She was standing slightly behind my mother, a tiny, triumphant curl at the corner of her lips. It was the same look of cold malice she had worn when I was forced to apologize for her ink spilling. "You did this," I stated, my voice dangerously even. My parents were aghast. "Maya, stop it. This is a genuine problem." "No, Mom," I countered, my eyes still fixed on Alara. "She found a way to cancel or block the reservation for the extra room. Didn't you, Alara? You knew I had the gallery showcase, and you didn't want me to have this moment. You had to make sure I was excluded." Alara's facade crumbled. "That is the most paranoid, ridiculous thing I have ever heard. You're just jealous that they still want me around." My father stepped in, his voice stern. "That's enough, Maya. You're causing a scene. This is a simple travel screw-up. It's a shame, but you travel for work all the time. Can't you just book a flight for next week and meet us when the resort clears up?" His words stung worse than Alara's sabotage. It wasn't the logistical problem. It was their immediate, unshakable loyalty their grand celebration with her, the non-family friend, while leaving their own daughter stranded at the airport, all for a flimsy excuse. "No," I whispered. "No, I can't. You two go. Enjoy your anniversary and your miracle friend. I'm going home." I turned, walked away from the check-in desk, and booked the first flight back to San Francisco. I didn't cry. I was simply done. My parents' last words to me were a frantic, "We'll call you as soon as we land, Maya. Don't be rash." I didn't answer those calls for the first few days. I was hurt, yes, but mostly I was liberated. I went back to work, threw myself into an intense new project, and finally, truly, moved on. A week later, a frantic call came through from my father. I picked up, bracing myself. "Maya, thank God. We need your help. It's Alara. She's been arrested." I sat down hard. "Arrested? What happened?" He recounted a story so chaotic it felt like a bad movie plot. It turned out Alara had not only sabotaged my accommodation, but she had planned to take my place in the digital art showcase on the last day, claiming she was the successful co-founder. She had even brought a flash drive with knockoff 3D designs, planning to present them as mine. However, the retreat staff noticed her erratic behavior earlier in the week. The resort was prestigious and had a very tight community of digital artists. When Alara started demanding special access to the high-tech immersive lab, claiming she needed to finalize her portfolio, A staff member recognized my name from the press release about the showcase and realized Alara was not me. When they refused her access, she lost it. The staff member, a prominent artist whose work I knew, contacted the police because Alara became verbally abusive and started attempting to tamper with the complex, multi-million-dollar installation at the main venue. She was charged with trespass, vandalism, the worst of it, and attempted fraud. My father choked out. The police searched her belongings before releasing her on bail, and they found all the documentation for the resort bookings. She had the confirmation emails and paperwork for the second villa room, your room, Maya. She hid it. She admitted she paid a concierge to mess with the system just enough to look like an overbooking issue. My father paused, the implication hanging in the air. She wanted us to leave you. She admitted it to the police. She started screaming that we were hers and you shouldn't have been invited in the first place. My parents, the ultimate defenders of the golden child, were forced to see the ugly, undeniable truth. Alara's jealousy and manipulation hadn't just been childhood pranks. They were a systemic, malicious pattern that culminated in a serious crime in a foreign country. And now she's out on bail, but she stole our passports and wallets. My mother whispered on the extension, sounding utterly defeated. She hid them and won't tell us where. We can't pay the bail bond company or the lawyer, we can't leave the country, and the resort won't let us stay another night because of the bad press. We're stranded. Maya, please. You're the only one with the money and the resources to help us. The irony was a bitter taste in my mouth. They chose her over me, isolated me for years based on her lies, and now they were utterly dependent on my success, the very success Alara had tried to sabotage. I need you to wire $20,000 for the bond and a local lawyer's retainer, my father pleaded. And please, we need help with the lost documentation for new temporary passports. We're begging you. We finally see it, Maya. We see everything. I took a deep breath. I will handle the lawyer and the Western Union wire for the bond, I said. I'm doing it for the parents who once loved me, not for the friend who manipulated me, and certainly not for the people who left me at the airport. Get your temporary passports and get out of there. When you get back, you need to find a way to make peace with what you've done. I'll take care of the logistics for now. My parents were overflowing with gratitude and apologies, but the words felt hollow. For years, I had craved their apology and recognition, but now that it came, delivered through the filter of a disaster, it felt insufficient. I ended the call, knowing this was only the beginning of a long, painful reckoning. My parents returned home a few days later, subdued and ashamed. The legal situation with Alara was a nightmare. The retreat pressed charges for the vandalism and fraud attempt. Alara's own parents were now involved, but even they struggled to control her. The golden child, stripped of her false shine, was revealed to be a deeply troubled and destructive force. My parents finally fully apologized. They sat with me for hours, listening as I recounted every incident. The ink, the essay deletion, the boy, the constant comparisons. They cried, admitted their favoritism was born out of a desperate need for a perfect trophy child after years of stress, and acknowledged they had catastrophically failed me by outsourcing their parental admiration to my friend. We were so blind, Maya, my mother admitted, her face stained with tears. We thought you were independent and strong, while Alara needed our protection. We chose the drama over the steady goodness. We are so sorry for robbing you of your childhood and your place in this family. It was a powerful, necessary moment of honesty. I told them what I had to. I appreciate your honesty. It means the world. But I can't just forgive a decade of neglect and betrayal in one conversation. I need time. We need to work on this, slowly, without Alara's shadow. Began the process of severing all ties with Alara. They helped her family with the legal proceedings but made it clear she was no longer welcome in their home or their lives. Alara, facing serious charges and the loss of her entire support system, had a nervous breakdown and was eventually ordered by the court to seek mandatory counseling and treatment. My parents, realizing how much they had missed, committed themselves to rebuilding our relationship. They flew to San Francisco a month later to spend genuine, uninterrupted time with me. No fanfare, no events, just honest connection. We walked through Golden Gate Park, talked about my business, and laughed together, something we hadn't done truly for years. The most profound change was the shift in their perception. They had replaced their superficial pride in my success with a deep, genuine appreciation for who I was as a person. Resilient, compassionate, and focused. They finally saw me, the true daughter, not the one they had dismissed in favor of a golden mirage. I realized that while the pain of the past wouldn't vanish, I could finally see a path forward. The betrayal of my friend and the blindness of my parents had forced me into independence, which ultimately led to my success. And in the end, it was that same success that provided the leverage for the truth to be revealed and my parents to be brought back to the family I always wanted. It's a bittersweet victory, but standing in the sunlight of my own life, I finally feel like I have everything I need.